Nice Micro Monday, the fundamental lie behind NFTs. So I think I don't have to introduce NFTs to my audience. Everyone should be knowing it by now that NFT stands for non-fungible token, which is some kind of a blockchain technology where instead of like cryptocurrencies where the blockchain basically stores who owns how much of certain cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin or Ethereum or whatever and registers the transactions of these cryptocurrencies only in their volume. The NFTs actually store like who has which token, and so you can associate something unique to these tokens, which the most used case nowadays is having JPEGs, so having some kind of digital artwork associated to these tokens and basically serving as kind of a proof of ownership of these artwork to people. And I think a lot of the people would agree that this is some kind of a scammy way for NFTs, and we can even prove that some of these NFTs have been used in not really ethical ways. So maybe I make an NFT and then I sell it to you for $5 and then you sell it back to me for $10 and then I sell it back to you for $15. So it just changes hand between you and me and maybe a few of our friends, and we just bid the price higher and higher, and once some outsider who is not in our circle sees that the price is just going up, will purchase the NFT from us, and then we can just share all the profits because basically the money just went around between us, so all of us can just share the profits that we get from selling this NFT to someone outside our group. And a lot of people who are NFT proponents will kind of say that, well, art trade is kind of similar in real world. So even in the case of the physical art, it is kind of a scam, because if you buy a very expensive painting from an art dealer, you are actually just, you don't really pay for the person's work who made the art. It's usually, you are buying something that someone owned it previously, and you're just trying to bid up the price artificially. So once you try to get rid of it, you will get more money for it than what you paid when you got it. But at least, physical artwork, you can hang it on your wall and not just have these kind of white, boring walls that I have here. And the thing is with physical art is that you actually have it with you, and if anything happens, you can just put it in a box, hide it, or, take it with you. And I know that a lot of people will say that this kind of distributed ledger technology, it's impossible to shut it down because it's distributed and decentralized, and as long as there is at least one copy of this database somewhere, it can always come back online. But, we can have any kind of external or internal problem that would cause widespread outage of electricity, for example. But I guess if you don't have electricity for a week, then the least of your worries will be your NFT collection, I guess. But in any case, but the thing is that with the current implementation, a lot of people will agree with me that it is kind of scummy that you just have a link to a JPEG somewhere and you don't actually own anything, because this ledger is, I don't know, it basically keeps track of the user and the object and like pairs them together, but there is no real ownership in the classical sense, because ownership, we have to accept that ownership is like a very human concept. So ownership doesn't exist in the physical universe. It is something that we humans made up when we decided that we will be a social species, but not all of us got the memo of us being a social species, but in general, that's how things work. And we decided that if I find a rock, and this is my rock, and then it would be very rude of you to take my rock away from me. And this is how kind of ownership exists today, is that we as a society decided that you can have a thing and it is very rude of other people to take it away from you. And we kind of have a system in place that tries to stop people doing that or revert if someone steals your things. And of course, we also have intellectual property rights, which are different categories when we decided that when you create a creative work, it's not just the physical representation. So if you write a book, it's not just the physical notebook and the physical ink in the notebook that is yours, but also the creative work itself. You have some kind of ownership over it, which, you can decide how you want it to be copied. So someone cannot just, you cannot just borrow it to someone and they read it and they copy it and then they try to sell it without your consent. So this is what the word copyright comes from, is that you have the right for copying these things. And the thing is that is like copyright is also, as many other like physical property, it's generally kept track by the government in one way or another. And I guess in our current world, a lot of people have a distrust in the government for different reasons, and they think that with this kind of distributed ledger technology, with NFTs, we could keep track of ownership without the pesky hands of the government, trying to fiddle with it. And so first of all, I don't really see how that is possible. So some people would say that, maybe, in this current state of the NFTs, when you buy an NFT, you actually just buy a token that is associated to a hyperlink that links to the artwork, but actually you don't have any kind of meaningful ownership of that artwork, so you don't become the copyright holder, you don't have anything, basically, besides that spot in the database. But maybe we could move our registration of the car registration or the registration of houses and things like that to the distributed ledger technology. But then I would ask you this question, that if you buy a house from someone else and it's got registered on the blockchain, so you have the NFT for the house, but then the previous owner of the house hires some muscle and they don't let you into that house, then what does your ownership of that house worth? Well, it doesn't really worth anything if they won't let you in that house, right? And so how it works in the current system is that when you purchase a house and you fill out all the paperwork and you go to the government office and they register your ownership and things like that. So if the previous owner doesn't want to let you into the house, you can go back to the government and tell them, okay, guys, you see, here is the paperwork we've done. I gave them the money. They transferred the ownership of the house to me. So please give me your muscle to get that muscle out of there. So, police and other government-related institutions like, maybe you get a judge will sign on and they get a restraining order and things like that. Depends on what country you live in. But this is how you enforce your property rights, is that the government, so our society decided that we have this kind of government functions to protect our properties, and this is how it's going to work. So just moving this registration to the NFT, or to the blockchain for an NFT, wouldn't really do anything with the issue that in the real world, ownership is a human concept, and in the end, ownership has to be enforced. And the English word enforce comes from the other word force, because force is what is real in this world, which is, physical forces and things like that. That's real. So that's how you can control these things. Another thing that people try to bring up as a possible use case for NFTs is like concert tickets. So how good it would be if you don't have this like a centralized authority over the concert tickets. You can just buy the concert ticket in an NFT and that will prove your ownership. But then again, a concert is a kind of a physical event, and your concert ticket is only worth as much as you can convince the security guards at the entrance that they should let you in. And so that is inherently a centralized thing, that someone has to let you into the concert venue. And I guess it is, I think nowadays with digital concert tickets, it's generally some kind of central authority who stores the tickets in some kind of database, and then you print out your barcode or something, and then they check that barcode against their database, and then that's what the security guards decide based on if they can let you in or they cannot let you in. And you could move that database into a blockchain, but then what is actually that you gain from that? So if you are a concert venue, what you gain for that is that you will have probably a more active second-hand market. So if you have like a centralized database, then you can control if people can sell their tickets to someone else. But if you have an NFT, then people can just sell their tickets here and there. And basically, if it doesn't really worth it for you as a concert venue, because if you accidentally kept the price too low, then with your pricing inefficiencies, there will be some third party who will profit from the pricing inefficiencies and the scarcity of the ticket relative to the interest in the concert from the people, which is, I think, not really an incentive for any concert venue to move their ticketing database to the blockchain. And so the only place where, based on this, would make some sense to have NFTs as the proof of ownership is some fully digital asset where the smart contracts themselves are the law and there is no physical reality attached to that. So there is no physical force that has to be applied, or the lack of the physical force. So when you go into the concert venue and they let you in, so that kind of lack of physical force is necessary to have it, the NFTs make sense. And there would be some fully digital thing like in a metaverse, in a video game. But in the end, the metaverse and the video games are also just run on some centralized server. And I don't see any reason why the company running the server couldn't just veto your NFT. So even though you have your proof of ownership in the blockchain, their server-side code can still refuse to acknowledge that if they really want to. And from that, I don't think that it would make any sense for moving their database of ownership, their digital ownership from a centralized place to a decentralized place, especially because it is just less efficient to store data in a cryptographic blockchain than in a centralized database with one centralized authority. It is just more price effective to do that. And I guess there isn't really a way to make NFTs in a way that is not just their storage is decentralized, not just the database itself is decentralized, but also we don't let the central authorities to kind of exercise any kind of oversight over that. Because in the end, all of this is just an illusion. It's just a social construct that only works as long as there are people who accept the concept of ownership registered in the NFT. And I don't know. So I think that's why the basic concept of NFTs making ownership more real and more decentralized is kind of nonsense. It's kind of a lie. But I'm curious about your opinions, which you can leave down in the comment section below. Follow me on all my social media platforms that you will find a link down there. And appreciate this video by clicking on the like button, I guess. See you next time. Bye.